right, we are back on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. How is everybody out there doing tonight? Also, uh, get you ready to go right into Monday Night Football that kicks off here soon. Um, just looking at it, just wanted to let everybody know uh, what we have going on. Um, trying out trying out a new audio setup. If you guys could give me a thumbs up in the chat on how that is doing. Just checking that out. Looking at some stuff here, but for the most part, how's everybody doing tonight? Got Monday Night Football getting ready to kick off. A lot of folks. It is Monday, so there is that. Um, close that one. Um, But we'll get into it here. Hit that like and subscribe button. Help us grow this thing. Um, that is kind of what we're doing here. Uh, for the most part, the phone lines are open. The numbers on the ticker. Uh, just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that. We'll take calls for a little bit, and then at a certain point, we'll just shut it down whenever Monday Night Football starts. But yeah, the weekend that was college football. Um, I guess we can go to the AP standings for what they were. Uh, pull that up. This is the new AP 25 poll, or the top 25. Uh, Ohio State won. I don't disagree with any of this. Um, I think that Auburn sneaks in there, Missouri gets in there. Um, the Texas Tech stuff is still fascinating to me. Um, Looking at that going forward, I think that's something to be said there. Oklahoma in there. I mean, they got the big win over Michigan. Michigan falls out. Uh, so yeah, Utah creeping in there. I think the Big 12, Arizona State falls out. Uh, Notre Dame was kind of idle. They take on Texas A&M this week, so there's that. Uh, pretty pretty interesting stuff on what they got going on there. What's that? Oh, appreciate it, Doreen. I appreciate you reposting the stream. Also, the phone lines are open, so if you want to call, you can call. Um, just curious on how my audio is doing with a new setup here, but appreciate everybody tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe button. Help us out. The number is at the bottom of the screen on the ticker. 260-255-4069 is the number to call. Um, there's that. Clemson, uh, not a great showing this week against Troy. It was a monsoon. It rained a monsoon down there. They couldn't get anything going in the first half. Troy jumped out to like a 16-point lead. Clemson ended up coming back and winning that. Um, but no, Michigan is in the top 25. I misspoke there. Um, Florida State is still in there. I not shocked. I don't know if you count East Texas A&M or whoever the hell they played, um, but those are some of the movements. South Florida sneaks in there, so there's that. Um, they got they got a lot of things going on for South Florida. They got Miami this week. I think that it's a interesting thing because South Florida again is they're big underdogs again at Miami. I find that very very interesting to say the least that they are underdogs. I think they're 18-point dogs against Miami. So there's that. I think that when it comes to some of the things that they have going, um, South Florida could be dangerous. Um, Nobody gave them a chance against Boise. Nobody gave them a chance against Florida. So there's that for the most part. But uh, I think that's interesting. We got the top 25 matchup with Notre Dame and A&M. We'll get rid of that. And then also Michigan note, Biff is going to be the interim head coach while Sharon Moore is suspended. I think that I think that Biff coming in and I don't I mean I think they got Central and another nobody, so they should be all right. I would think as far as that goes. I was looking for the notable games, but yes, the phone lines are open if you want to call. Trying to get the notables up this week. Indiana taking on Indiana State. Signetti, I'm sure can't get ready for that enough. Uh, but yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. Clemson taking on Georgia Tech. I noon game on the road for Clemson. Got to be ready for that one. Alabama taking on Wisconsin. I think is a another thing to be said. I think that where that is at, it should be good. Should be a good game to say the least. There's that. Michigan taking on Central Michigan. Just checking on some things. Auburn takes on South Alabama. Kind of a nothing burger there. Penn State's got Villanova. I'm sure that's going to move the needle for some people. Uh, Georgia taking on Tennessee. That should be a very fascinating matchup. Uh, Georgia was like Georgia. I think the line opened for Georgia Tennessee was like at 8.5 when it opened. Now it's at 3.5. Georgia goes on the road to uh, Neyland. Had to be either the odds makers know something that we don't, it is a it is going to be a major letdown situation. To be honest, um, I find it fascinating that Tennessee's only a 3.5 point uh, dog. To be honest, uh, I I guess I'm getting my voice quality is bad. Hold on one second. hopefully, that fixed the, hopefully that fixes the, audio issue. Turn that down a bit. Hopefully that fixes it. Trying to work. I got a whole new setup here. I'm trying to get this figured out. But hold on 1 second. I might be able to fix this on the fly. Uh, settings here. Apologize for the audio stuff here. I'm trying to get this figured out. Uh, give me one. All right. Uh, yeah, I'm just working on the new setup here, so that's my working on. Uh, just just trying to get that. What's it sound like? It's super loud. That's what I'm trying to figure out. But hold on. Give me one. All right. I'm seeing if that has fixed it. Trying to get this figured out just to see. Is that better for everybody out there? Hopefully the mic is working better now. Because if you put it in the chat whenever I'm looking at it in real time, so that's the only thing I was looking at because sometimes with the mixer board, if a knob gets turned, you just don't know it. But anyway, moving on, we'll go back to where we were at talking about the Georgia, Tennessee. Joey Aguilar is the uh, one of the main topics. But yeah, just trying to get this whole audio setup, uh, trying to get this whole thing rassled and tangled is a it's not as easy as it looks. But but yeah, Tennessee, Georgia is the big thing that we have for the 3 o'clock game. Uh, So basically, I gotta stay closer to the mic. I guess it's one of those things that what I gotta work on. But Oregon, Oregon State is taking on Texas Tech this evening, or not this evening, but Saturday. Then you got Iowa State taking on Arkansas State. These are all the top 25s, UTEP and Texas. That's pretty much that. But South Florida, Miami kicking off at 4:30. I'll be interested to see how this line how this line moves. It is currently sitting at Miami as an 18.5 point favorite. Uh, that is something to be said there, but I just don't think that it is that it's going to be that it is going to be a huge. It's either going to be a Miami blowout or it's going to be a wildly successful South Florida takedown, to be honest. Because the way I look at this, South Florida, you can say that you can look at all their offensive issues that they've had, but they've found ways to win games. That's one of the things that I'm looking at. I think I'm going to keep an eyeball on that. And 18.5 points is a big number to cover, to be honest, for Miami. I know Miami had Bethune-Cookman. They beat Notre Dame. It feels like that it could be a like what's going on in Florida right now with Billy Napier. That's what it's going to be like with Mario if South Florida comes out and wins this game. That's all that I'm kind of looking at the moment because they're going to be calling for Billy Napier, or not Billy Napier, but Mario Cristobal's job. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm looking at. With the new playoff, I don't think it's losing a game is not the end of the world, in my opinion. So there is that. Ohio State taking on Ohio. It is what it is. Uh, the Buckeyes get a home night game, which I'm sure the fans are thrilled about that. Should be a Penn State game, but whatever. I've already expressed my stuff with the big noon kickoff. Monday Night Football getting ready to kick off in 11 minutes. But also take this time real quick to throw it out there. The phone lines are open. Once again, the number is 260-255-4069. If you want to call, we'll leave that open all show. I think that's something we're adding to the show. So if you want to call, you can call. But Illinois taking on Western. Illinois 27.5 point favorites. I think we kind of know how that is going to shake out, barring any catastrophic things happening. Arkansas is traveling to Vaught Hemingway, taking on Ole Miss. The big one that's very interesting. There's two big night games that are real interesting to me. Texas A&M, Notre Dame. Notre Dame coming off the loss to Miami opening week, and then you've got Florida LSU night game. as they're showing on ESPN right now, the Chicago skyline, the Bears and Vikings about to uh, kick off. But yeah, so there's that. Just looking at some other things, checking out the old Twitter sphere. Breaking news: the Jaguars are trading a running back to Philadelphia for some picks. Very interesting stuff there, I think. Um, so that's where that's at. Let me retweet this. But yeah, so like I said, if you can hit the like and subscribe, help us grow this thing. Also, the phone lines are open 260-255-4069 if you want to get some of your opinion in on this past weekend of college football. Let me retweet this. So there's that. Got that done. Got that squared away. But yeah, Vanderbilt taking on South Carolina. Very interesting matchup. I think that could be a dangerous one for Shane Beamer and company. But yeah, outside of I think the three big games this weekend, I don't know if you want to categorize Wisconsin and Alabama as a big game, but we'll roll through some scores here. Ohio State, obviously, Grambling. I don't think there was any question or doubt there. I watched a little bit of that, nothing too crazy. LSU kind of sleptwalk. They sleptwalk through the Tech game. Georgia, they ended up moving that game time. It still ended up getting delayed. It was what it was. Georgia gets out of there with the win, 28-6 over Austin Peay. Miami had an impressive showing. The one game that I thought it was personal was Oklahoma State, Oregon. Gundy had a lot to say about Oregon and Dan Landing's roster, what they're spending on NIL. I think that there is a lot to be said there. I think the score kept going up and up and up just for the simple fact of Dan was taking that personal. I don't know how he wasn't. It's one of those things. Yeah, I find that trade interesting. What how Howie Roseman's doing up there in Philly, but yeah, I think Dan Lanning took that game personal, and I think he took Gundy's comments personal, and I think that's why the score ended up being what it was. To be 100% honest with you, Arch Manning 19 of 30 for 295, 4 touchdowns, 38-7 win over San Jose State is what it is. Clemson had a not a nail biter against Troy, but that was just something that happened. Illinois put up a boatload of points on Duke. I'm sure Manny Diaz wasn't thrilled about that. I think Illinois is on their way to being a playoff team. We'll get into that in a minute. Arizona State falls to Mississippi State. State is now 2-0. That is something there. Have we talked about Underwood in Michigan yet? No, we're getting there. We are getting there. I guess we can jump there right now. Underwood in Michigan. looking at that game in a totality, being a true freshman rolling on the road, am I shocked that the score ended up being what it was? It was that game was what it was, to be honest. Um it's just looking at it, I get it. There was a lot of hype around him, but I don't think the showing. I mean, he only had 9 completions, QBR of 40. A lot's been talked about that. So I think that going forward, I think Justice Hayes carried the team for all intensive purposes on that end of it. Uh, do I think that he's going to be a factor? You got to remember it's his second start. Could he be better going down the road? Of course, there's always room for improvement, but do I think that it's going to be. It didn't help that he had John Mateer on the other sideline quarterbacking Oklahoma, a kind of a pretty decently polished. A lot of people weren't overly hyped, but one of the things I'll say about Oklahoma is I don't think for Oklahoma going forward, I don't think you could run Mateer 19 times every single game, especially when you get it, especially when you get into SEC play. I think that's one of the bigger issues for Oklahoma. They've got to figure out a way to find more offense because they only put up a field goal. They only put up 10 points in the second half. Michigan struggled to score until the second half. They did all their work in the second half. Portnoy was having a meltdown. Oh, yeah. But here's the thing when it comes to expectations versus reality. Was anybody really thinking that Bryce Underwood was going to go in there and completely light it on fire? I think Michigan is a 4-loss team. Well, we'll go to the win-loss toss right now. So they played 2. I would say they beat Central. Yes, 99.69% of Michigan fans, yeah. I would say they'll beat Central Michigan. I think Nebraska's a coin toss. It just depends on how much better they are with Raiola. They played Cincinnati, kind of struggled offensively. Wisconsin, I would say Michigan could beat Wisconsin because I don't think Wisconsin can score points. I think Wisconsin's starting quarterback's going to be out for a while. Washington, but they have Washington at home. They got to go on the road at SC. Michigan State's always tough for Michigan. I think Michigan State might be vastly improved this year, to be honest. Purdue, that's a win. Northwestern, that's a win. Maryland's got a young freshman. We'll have to see what they look like, and that's on the road. And then they have the showdown with the Buckeyes at the end of the year. So, Irish for Life believes they will lose to USC. We'll see. Also, the phone lines are open. Again, the number is 260-255-4069. So if you want to give me a call and you have something you want to voice your opinion about, I'm all ears. But just getting back on to notable scores from the past weekend. Florida State rolls, of course. Iowa loses on the road at Ames. I find that very interesting, and also Baylor sneaks one out. Baylor sneaks one out against SMU. SMU, that was, I think realistically, the CW is going to have major ratings this year because they have some low key. They've had some good games this year. The CW has. They got Miami, South Florida this weekend, just after they come off of Baylor SMU. A&M rolls Bronco Mendenhall and Utah State. Ole Miss gets a 7-point win. I think the big thing coming out of Ole Miss is going to be how healthy is the quarterback, Austin Simmons. Alabama looks like world beaters against Brian Vincent and Louisiana Monroe. Tennessee rolls East Tennessee State. Kennesaw State gets their doors blown off by Indiana. Tech dog walks Kent State, and then Utah rolls Cal Poly. That's pretty much the notable scores of the top 25. LSU was underwhelming against La Tech. Well, see, the thing with LSU is I think that LSU had some issues. Yeah, I'm trying to give out some betting advice here, but getting that done. But yeah, that's kind of what that was. And I think LSU, after having a highly emotional win against Clemson, now since Clemson looked like hammered dog crap against Troy, everybody's wanting to discount the LSU win now, which I think it's not so fast. Now, I think one of the bigger things going into this weekend is they have Florida at home at night at Death Valley. It would be very, very bad for the Tigers to drop that one against Billy Napier. That's just something that I'm throwing out there. Because if they drop that, it is hard telling on, and especially Mario. So let's just say this happens. Florida wins and South Florida wins. They're going to want to fire both coaches at LSU and Miami. That's all I'm saying. That's what it'll be. Like it is this week for Billy Napier. He's on the hot seat. We're going to get rid of him. All of that stuff. It'll be the same thing in Baton Rouge and in South Beach. I guarantee you that's what it'll be. Now, Miami is a little bit more complex because the biggest thing for Miami, they cannot drop conference games like they did last year. Irish for life. It wouldn't break my heart, LOL, but LSU can't afford to fire Brian Kelly. That is also very true, and that's why you're not seeing any movement with the major universities. Also, Irish for life. The phone line is open. 260-255-4069. That is the phone line. So if you want to call. We'll leave it open for a while yet. But this is Bud Elliott's updated playoff thing. ESPN has Miami minus 16.5. Well, the crazy thing is that they had Florida minus 16.5 against South Florida. I think that South Florida is playing inspired right now. They start their season off 3 weeks in a row with ranked opponents in the top 25. If they come out of there, if they beat Miami, I think they're... But I'm also kind of working and on a call. I get you, man. But yeah, we're going to leave the phone lines open for a while yet. But this is what his updated playoff rankings look like. LSU versus South Florida, Miami, Oklahoma, Clemson, Oregon, Texas, Notre Dame, Georgia, Utah, Ohio State, and Penn State all getting a bye. I buy Ohio State as a playoff team. I buy Utah as a playoff team. I buy Georgia. I buy Penn State. Oklahoma is on the fringe for me. Miami is on the fringe. It's not that I'm saying they're not a playoff team. Let me preface this by saying I'm not saying that they're not a playoff team, but what I'm saying is Miami has to go out and prove it that they're a playoff team. That's all I'm saying. They have to prove it. And I think the Miami fans will get pissed about that, but they have to prove it to me that they have to be a playoff team. Oklahoma is the same way. Clemson, I think because of the way the ACC is set up, I think that's just something to be said there. Texas, I don't know because I think Texas still has a favorable schedule, although looking at it for what it is for Texas, this is what I think is a very interesting game for them. If I can get their schedule pulled up. The one fascinating thing with Texas is if you look at where they've got to go on the road to, because let's just say, out of all intensive purposes, Florida gets some momentum and beats LSU and Miami, then you got to go into Gainesville with them on the cusp of pushing for the playoffs, and that's not going to be an easy environment. Then you have Oklahoma. That's kind of the neutral site game. On the road at Kentucky, that'll probably be a noon game, be a snoozer. And then if Mississippi State keeps winning, and I'm not saying Mississippi State is going to be anywhere near the playoffs, but what I'm saying is that a lot of people picked Mississippi State to finish last in the SEC. If Mississippi State can go out there and put together a salvageable season, I think Jeff Lebby is a great offensive mind, and I would not be wanting to come to Starkville being a top 10 team in Texas already with one loss. And then not to mention Vandy comes to town. That is what it is. I don't know what Vandy will look like by the end of the season, how healthy they are. But then you got to go on the road to Georgia. You got to go on the road to Athens. And that is something that's not a good time, in my opinion. And then you have Arkansas at home, and then you got to finish with A&M. But that's looking way down the road for Texas. I think Notre Dame's biggest test going forward is A&M, and then it's pretty much it's a little bit of a snooze fest to the finish line. But I think Notre Dame desperately needs this A&M win. I think Notre Dame needs this A&M win more than A&M needs a Notre Dame win, because it's going to be an uphill battle. And after A&M, they have Purdue. Purdue is what it is. Barry Odom completely trying to rebuild a program there. That's just something. And Boise State, Notre Dame thought Boise would most likely be ranked. Well, they ran into a buzzsaw that was South Florida. If we don't get the A&M win, it's going to be hard to justify them in the playoffs. That is very true, because if you look, if they end up 10-2, and the one thing I do not like is we're going to do a watch party for it. I don't like noon in Fayetteville. I'm just telling you now, I don't like noon in Fayetteville. We just don't play anyone after this. Arkansas, it depends on what USC is, but I don't like noon at Fayetteville, and I don't like at the midway towards the back part of the year. I don't like on the road at Boston College, especially going up against Bill O'Brien. I don't like that at the end of the year. If I'm sitting in South Bend, Indiana, I don't like either of those two games. Noon at Arkansas and on the road at Boston College, especially if it's at Chestnut Hill, because every time I've ever seen Notre Dame play at Boston College, they've kind of struggled. So there is that. Monday Night Football getting ready to kick off. Don't know if you want to hang out through then. I think we'll keep the show going a little bit. We'll keep the show going a little bit longer. But if you're watching on Twitter or X, come on over to YouTube, join the chat. We got tons of stuff going on. Also, the phone lines are open if you want to call and talk about whatever you want to talk about. And I will keep the show going. A loss to BC would be hard to swallow. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Uh, uh, Bill O'Brien up there at Chestnut Hill, I don't think that is wildly advantageous for or conducive for behavior, to be honest. Um, what are some of the big headlines they got for the week? Mississippi State gets fined $500K for the field storming. I get it. Sankey's got to have something. The conference has put it out there. It's not a progressive fine anymore. It's a fixed fine. Steve Sarkisian got asked about Arch Manning's health, which is very fascinating. He said it looked like one of the reporters said it looked like he grimaced when he threw the ball, and Sark says, "Well, I don't take pictures of you while you're trying to take a dump," or something to that effect. It's like, okay, whatever, Sark. Would I be shocked if Arch is hurt? I'm not saying either way, but who knows? They don't have to give a real injury report anyway. I mean, last year, Quinn Ewers had his oblique torn off the bone, and nobody knew that until the draft rolled around. So the college coaches love to conceal injuries. It's not like the NFL. So, but yeah. Again, the phone number 260-255-4069 as Monday Night Football is about to get underway. So yeah, there is that. What was up with Bryce Underwood and running back Justice Hayes getting into it on the sidelines? Yeah, that's I find that very fascinating that they had like a mini spat, but that's just football. People with differing opinions. It happens. It's in the heat of the moment. Two guys have two differing opinions on how the offense should be ran or how it's going. I think one of the bigger things is that Michigan going forward is in a pretty good spot. I don't foresee the huge precipitative drop off that from Harbaugh. Do I think that they replaced a quarterback? They replaced 15, 16 guys in the last couple of years, getting rid of Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. So I just think that Michigan's got to reload. I know people don't like to hear that and have people that will talk positively of the Wolverines, but I'm just saying that to say that they're in a Wisconsin position is totally untrue. They got Bryce Underwood, the number one player in the country, in his recruiting class. So I think that Sherrone Moore is a first-time head coach and he's learning on the fly. The suspension obviously doesn't help. I think Michigan wins the 2 games without him, and then they can put the whole Stallion stuff and say it's over. Irish for life. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say maybe it's my own bias, but I think maybe more by the end of the year. I don't know. It's hard. See, the big thing that Sherrone Moore has there is he's kept the winning against Ohio State going. And I think if Michigan goes out and beats Ohio State again this year, brother, it's going to be bad. I'm not totally convinced that Ohio State was 28-point favorites against Michigan last year, and they completely botched it. So I just think that that's something that they got to get fixed. And then we'll go to the Heisman odds here real quick. The on threes got John Mateer, Castellanos, Garrett Nussmeier, Dampier, Beck, Sellers, Downs, Moore. Those guys, I think the top 8 have real shots at it. I think Mateer has a very big shot at it. I think Mateer, Nussmeier, Dampier is not going to get as much pub being in the Big 12 because Utah plays a lot of late games, and that's just how that goes. The guys on the West Coast, unless it's at USC, it's really, really hard for guys, west of the Mississippi that aren't in the SEC to win the Heisman, in my opinion. That's kind of what I've gathered from it. Monday Night Football has kicked off. Well, I'll give you this. Jeremiah Love did not play great against Miami. He didn't. And I know the Notre Dame fans are going to be mad when I say this. And, when Carter's on, we do a lot of Notre Dame content. But that showing in Miami for Notre Dame was not a good look, in my opinion. I just thought offensively it was very, very vanilla. And it wasn't, in my opinion, up to par with what they even were last year. And I was critical last year about Riley Leonard throwing the ball. And I just think that coming into the year, is Jeremiah Love going to be the guy that was talked about all this Heisman stuff and just doesn't live up to it? But also they have to give him the rock too. But I think with Dim Brock running the show, I think that they'll get it figured out. It's just that breaking in a new quarterback, but I mean, that's just what it's been for the new teams going forward. Alabama breaking in a new starter, Notre Dame, new starter, Ohio State, new starter. There's a lot of major programs that are breaking in new starters. Right. He did almost average 5 yards a carry, but I think that story is totally different if Notre Dame wins that game. That's what I think. I think the story and the narrative is different around Jeremiah Love if Notre Dame wins that game. Oh boy. JJ McCarthy sacked. 4th down coming up for Minnesota. Looks like an FYI, I did take the Bears plus the 1.5. I think this is a JJ McCarthy's first start. Not 100% entirely sold on that. Not that I'm a JJ McCarthy hater. I just think that first-time starters in the NFL, it's really hard to win games. I think it's really hard to win games in the NFL and at the high level of college football too. So there's that. Also, we'll leave it open for a little bit longer. Again, the phone number is 260-255-4069. If you want to call, get it in now. We'll keep it open for a little bit longer and talk about whatever you want to talk about. If Arch doesn't take Texas to the finals, at least, can he kiss any chance at the NFL goodbye? It depends upon how Arch plays. That's the big thing with Arch Manning. Because of the amount of hype around Arch Manning, I think that it comes down to how well he plays when it comes to the NFL stuff. If he goes out there and lights up the scoreboard and they play really well and they're like bad on defense and then quote unquote the defense is what causes them to lose the game, okay, he'll be all right. I think he'll be on an NFL team unless he just stinks it up that bad. Well, here's the thing. I don't 100% and I think some of the public stuff that has came out with the Arch stuff is interesting because his grandpa said no. Archie said no, he'll be at Texas next year. Well, here's the thing. I don't 100% know if Arch is going to make that decision. I'm sure he's going to talk to his two uncles and his grandpa that have all played in the NFL, and plus his dad played at Ole Miss until he had to quit playing. But I think that that's just something to be said there. I think that he'll make the right decision. I mean, Peyton didn't even come out as a junior, and Arch only being a 1-year starter. There's no, in my opinion, I think there's no way that Arch goes to the NFL. I think they'll put some drama around it, and I'm not a Bears fan or a Williams fan, but I do find myself rooting for him. He plays with a lot of heart. My thing is on Caleb Williams. I don't know if Ben Johnson can fix him. I think they'll have some success, and I think there'll be light at the end of the tunnel. But they just re-signed Poles, their general manager, to I think a 3-year extension, so he ain't going anywhere. I think the big thing is that they just need consistency, and I don't think the Eberflus experiment was helping him at all, and I think that's why he played bad at the end of the year. But we'll have to see what Caleb looks like going forward. So that's just my opinion on that. So I see we're getting some more new people in here. Hit that like and subscribe button and help us grow the channel. Also, the phone number is on the ticker. If you want to call in, by all means, the phone line is open. So, yeah, I guess we'll leave it open for a little bit longer and see if we can get some people to call in. So, yeah, but yeah, here's another list that is the top impact transfer portal guys. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm not shocked Mateer is number one. That is just something that I think it was built in. Everything that's going on around Oklahoma in a positive light. I think the gambling stuff and some of that other just nonsense that went on there, I think that they'll be able to fight through that because I think Venables needs to push for the playoffs. Because if he doesn't, they can't go 6-6. I'm just saying. They just can't because it doesn't help that the athletic director that hired him is now retired. He's got a new boss. So I think that that's something there. Would love to hang out, but got to do a system upgrade. Needs to get back on the phone with a couple of texts, but I'll be back now. It's football season, Andre. Have a good night to all. Yes, you too, Irish for Life. We'll be here Monday through Friday. And if you want to tune in, I think we're going to start doing the NFL show. It's going to be mostly dominated by the Steelers. That's going to be at 5 o'clock Monday through Friday. And then we won't have either show on Fridays. Fridays will be a call-in show, talk about whatever you want to talk about going into the weekend. I'll probably start looking at the preview for Texas A&M. We'll start previewing the games we're going to live stream on Saturdays. So there's that. Appreciate you, Irish. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I think that where we're at we're in a pretty good spot. Just looking at it going forward, that's kind of what we're doing here. Looking at some other things, scrolling through the Twitter machine. Nothing really too crazy going out there. I think when it comes down to it, I'm not shocked by the Underwood overreaction stuff, to be honest. I figured it was coming sooner or later. He would maybe have a bad game. So there is that. We're going to leave the phone lines open for 5 more minutes. And in case anybody wants to call, you better get it in because we are going to wrap it soon. So there's that. Outside of that, what is everybody's game that they're looking forward to the most this weekend? I would say that I think I'm going to be pulling for Tennessee this weekend. I think it'd be good to see Tennessee and Tennessee get a win. I know that would be to the chagrin of the Georgia fans, but that's kind of where I'm at on it. Chicago is in the red zone. Looks like they're about to score. Last call. The phone number is 260-255-4069. Got about 5 minutes before we wrap the show. That's kind of where we're going to have it at. We'll be doing some more preview stuff, seeing if Florida can get off the mat after a loss last week, taking on LSU, and what Tennessee, Georgia looks like, Notre Dame, A&M. Caleb Williams gets in there, touchdown, Bears. So there is that. I think the Bears look highly improved from last season just off of that drive. We'll have to see what Caleb digs out of here. They are pumped in Chicago right now. Can't really blame them. So there is that. But also, if you catch this stream late, drop a comment on what game you are most excited to see coming into this weekend. That is something of note there. But tomorrow we'll have Steel City at 5. We'll have the college football show at 7:30. And I think I'll open the phone lines again tomorrow, trying to get that aspect of the show incorporated. So if that is something you're interested in, we'll be doing that going forward. And then also we'll be live streaming 3 time slots, noon, 3:30, and 7:30 on Saturday. So I guess with that being said, the phone line has not rang. We will wrap it there. Appreciate everybody who tuned in tonight. Hit that like and subscribe button. Help us grow this thing. And we will talk to you again tomorrow.